is the one example of a wire insertion tool. All right, it's very similar. It looks a lot like our percutaneous needle, actually, but it's blunt. It's not going to poke me. It's a blunt tip. To prep this or get this ready for the patient, you know, some people don't even do this, but all you really need to do is give a little flush if you want to. It does have a lumen, so you can just give a little flush and that's ready to go. So pretty simple. This is the torque device, or one of the different torque devices. This is what we put on the back end of the wire. I didn't demonstrate it last time. I said I would do it next time, but I can demonstrate it for you guys very quickly. So all you do to open it up is just kind of unscrew the little piece. Now, if you unscrew too much, you can make it come off. You don't want to do that. Screw it tight, that locks it. If it's too tight, also you can't get your wire in. And you see how I am putting it on? So the pointy, this is the back end of the wire. This is what would be hanging out of the patient, okay? So you would just put it on, have it loose enough where you could put it on, and then slide it down to wherever the doctor wants it, and then the doctor would tighten it. And then that gives them ability to maneuver this wire easier than sitting here trying to maneuver it through just holding on to, you see how I'm not being able to twist it as well as I can twist it much easier with this little device on it. So that's a pretty easy device to deal with, okay? I'll put this back up for right now. All right, this is your 2E or your Y connector, two different kinds. All right, this goes to the back part of the catheter. All right, this piece is what's going to connect to your extension tubing here. And once you've got your guide catheter in, like that. This back end over here is where you're going to put your wire, your balloon, any of your interventional devices through it. There's really no prep for this. You don't have to flush it. You do just need to understand that, so when you open, that's when you can put the equipment in and out, and then you can tighten it down. The physician is probably the one that's going to be working this the most, not really you. Main thing, you're going to get it set up for the physician. And what I usually do when I am prepping and getting ready for my intervention, I just go ahead and have it connected and ready to go on my manifold, on my extension tubing. Okay? This is just a different kind. Instead of a rotating, as a little spring, and you push it and pull it. So to open, you have to push it in, and that opens that lumen, and they have to hold it. Lock it, you just let go, and then it locks down. Here is your guide catheter. Here an example. Guide catheters are more flimsy than diagnostic. Now, we know that the diagnostic can kink, but this is a 7 French, actually, no, a 6 French, 0.070 inch inner diameter. It has this little yellow tip. That is the bright tip. That's how it's more radio opaque. We can see it under fluoro easier. This is actually an extra backup, a Cordis XB guide catheter. You'll learn the shapes as we go. I had a couple more. Here is a JR, but they're just as bad. They don't tell you on the hub what it is. So you do have to, learn your shapes. I believe this is a JR. This could be a hockey stick. It's kind of, but it looks a lot like a JR to me. And then this one is an Amplatz Right, actually. I'm not gonna make you memorize these, you know, right now I'm look at you a lot because you're my only cath person in here. You know, these are things that you'll have to start looking at, trying to learn. The main thing is that just say you, in a procedure, the doctor's tried several different guides, and then all of a sudden he says, give me back that such and such. Well, once you take it out of the package, it's not labeled anymore. And if you've put it back here, you know, you want to be able to recognize which one it is by the shape. Hopefully, you've got some that don't look a lot alike, and you know, but you will get used to it the more that you're doing it. And I can look at Kaylee too, because she's still a little green herself. How do we prep it? Flush it. Not a trick question, but kind of a trick question. Same way we do any catheter, right? This one actually has side holes. I just noticed that. I didn't point that out last time. But if you'll notice, this one has some little side, little tiny holes. It's one of those side hole catheters. We don't use them a lot, mainly when there is an osteal lesion in whatever vessel we're working on. Okay, so that's prepped and ready. We've talked about our little accessory tools. I showed you how to use this one. This one I didn't show the last group, but I'll show them again. What this really is for is so that when we are connected to our guide, okay, and we want to put our wire in. So the tips of these wires are pretty flimsy. This is our short wire. Okay, so they're pretty flimsy. We want to be careful. If you notice, I didn't grab it by the tip and pull it out. I pushed the back end of it as far as I could, and then I grabbed back a little bit. One of the things we do have to be careful with these 014 guide wires is not to pull them, and we can ding them up. We can bend them, and then the doctor might want a new one. So this just allows for this to go be fed in easier without dinging it up, as opposed to trying to feed it through this area that has this valve and everything. Not that I can't do it, but it could potentially mess it up a little bit more. Another thing is with a guide catheter, I want you to understand that you're going to get more bleeding back. So you don't really get to see that here because we don't have a blood pressure on our mannequin. But sometimes we'll have some pressure built up in there, and you'll see some fluid kind of leak back out of your catheter when you put your diagnostic catheter in. Having a larger lumen than the diagnostic, you're going to get more what we call bleed back. And so when we have this TUI open, you're going to get more bleeding out of it. While you're trying to feed that wire in, you're going to get a lot of blood coming out. If we can put this device in, this wire insertion, we can tighten down on it, and then we don't get all that bleeding back. And that's such a small lumen, you won't get hardly any blood coming back out of here. So kind of multiple purposes for using the wire insertion tool while we're doing our intervention. Okay, any questions so far? Everybody good?